Place to be nation, welcome to Songs with Friends episode 3. My name is Steve Williams and joining me once again is Kelly. Kelly, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to apologize to the listeners first and foremost for some of the delays that have all been on my end. This is the third time now that we've tried to record in between a child that needed to be picked up in a bit of a mini emergency and then just me just straight up taking a beautiful nap one day that I could not be bothered with. We've had some delays, so we're back to entertain the people, and I hope that you guys enjoy this week's show. So let's get right to it. Usually on Songs with Friends, we discuss song lyrics and try to build a narrative around the song. And this is such a vivid storytelling song that I think most of the work is done for us. We're going to start out this week talking about All That I Got Is You, as performed by the Ghostface Killah. This was the debut single from his solo debut, Iron Man, released in the fall of 1996. And I picked this song because it is one of the more vivid portrayals of poverty that I've heard on a song. Real quick before we dive into it. Now, Kelly, I'm not sure, are you very familiar with kind of the backstory of WuTang Clan?
I'm going to say no, so.
Alright, keep in mind, this was like 92, 93 when they hit the scene. And these guys, with no kind of backing whatsoever that I'm aware of, were able to sign a deal as a group that also gave them the right to sign their own individual record contracts. Kind of an unheard of business savvy for a bunch of guys from essentially the projects and staff.
Yeah, awesome.
So kudos to them on that. I like dropping that little factoid. I was a bit of a Wu-Tang nerd in high school. So yeah, props to them. This was, I think it was the third solo album of Wu-Tang Clan. I know Method Man and Old Dirty Bastard had albums dropped before this. So this was Ghostface's debut, came with a lot of hype, and this was the lead single off of that. And one more kind of odd thing about this song. On the CD version, it's definitely Mary J. Blige singing the female parts. I don't think that's Mary on the video version. Did you detect that?
I did.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand not being able to get her for the actual video, but not even being able to use her voice was something else altogether.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that old Simpsons gimmick where they could afford talking to Michael Jackson, but they couldn't afford singing Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that might have been it. No, I caught that too. I thought that was odd, but I was like, well, I didn't know why either.
Well, rock on. Well, let's get into it as I pull up the lyrics here. Alright, there's a little bit of a speaking part at the beginning. We're just going to skip that nonsense. Alright, starting out with, dwelling in the past, flashbacks when I was young. Whoever thought I'd have a baby girl and 3 sons. I'm going through this difficult stage. I find it hard to believe why my old Earth had so many seeds. So, we're establishing at this point that this is 26-year-old Ghostface, kind of looking back on his youth now that he has 4 kids of his own at 26 years old. Just wait a damn minute and ponder that for a minute. Good Lord.
My parents can relate to this, so.
And think of those struggles.
No.
It's not the same quite because I'm sure that your parents' paychecks weren't the same as what someone who has 2 record deals paycheck would be like.
Correct. Correct.
He's kind of pondering on how, or reminiscing about just how far he's come in life. As we move forward with, but she's her own woman, and due to me, I respect that. I saw life for what it's really worth and took a step back. Family ain't family no more. We used to play ball, eggs after school, eat grits because we was poor. Now, out of that block of lyrics, family ain't family no more. Thinking about that as far back as 1996. This was a guy who grew up in the 70s when there were literally 2 to 3 channels on the television and you just had to entertain yourself. I think that is something that has only gotten more poignant now, 20 years later. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. No, like my parents would literally, like if it was daylight out or whatever, we had to be outside. I mean, that was just kind of how it was. And when it got dark, it was like, you can come in. So I didn't really grow up like watching TV and being inside the house, even back in, I don't know, what was, late 80s, early 90s, we were always outside. My daughter's not like that at all. Like,
yeah, mine goes in spurts. She recently got a bike for the first time in a couple years, and she's super excited to just get out and ride the hell out of her bike for 10 minutes. And then she comes back in and she says, oh, you know what? There's nothing really to do. I've seen all those trees before.
yeah.
But we also live in an area where there's only one other kid, and he's kind of a dickhead.
It's a boy, and on top of it, it's a boy. So.
Yeah, so she doesn't really have that same sense of community that we may have had growing up. I know until I was 9, we lived in a very small, tight-knit kind of neighborhood, and I still talk to a guy that I lived around back then. And then from there, we moved into a trailer park that we were discussing off air right before we started recording. And you know how it is in a trailer park. Everybody's just close together. You can't help but be on top of each other if you're outside. So we knew everybody back then. I've lived in this house now for going on 5 years. I don't know the name of the guy across the street. He's a nice enough guy. He came over and helped me with the snowblower one time.
Yeah.
When my dog gets out, we corner him together. I don't know that dude's name.
That sounds about right.
This loss of community is something that I think is, I don't want to say real widespread, but it's definitely a bigger thing that has happened as time has gone on.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I had the fortunate, I lived in the same house from when I was 5 until I was 18. So most of the kids in my neighborhood did too. There's probably 15 of them, and I still keep in contact with all of them, every single one of them, because we all just grew up together. And my daughter doesn't have that at all. Nothing like that. So it's sad.
Especially now as parents, it seemed like my parents, for all their faults, their friends were of similar age, and I guess their friends were making the same mistakes because there were always kids around my age. I didn't have my daughter until I was 23, and none of my other friends had kids yet. So I didn't really have anybody her age that I could take over and play with, as a play group type situation that a lot of the parents do now.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, circumstances are different in 2018. It's complicated out here, man.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Grab the pliers for the channel, fix the hanger on the TV. Real quick, I got to share this story. Now, when I was 16, so this would have been 1998, I had a little TV in my room, a little wood grain TV. If it was 13 inches, I'd be surprised. I didn't have pliers on that bitch, but I did have knobs. And including the power and the volume were the same knob. And every so often, the picture would just disappear for a minute. And you would have to take that knob, not turn the TV off, but turn it to where it would touch, like it was going to click off. And that would, I guess, reconnect the circuit for the tube somehow.
Oh my gosh.
Every now and then you get a real spark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived like that. And there was cable hooked up to it. You can get channels 2 through 13 on that first, and then when you went to the UHF dial, you could get those channels through cable. It was insane. Considering we weren't even paying for cable, I can't believe the whole thing worked. It was one of those split from the neighbor's trailer kind of gimmicks.
Oh, that's awesome.
In fact, I remember 8 years old, there was a Simpsons episode where Homer stole cable. And my little dumbass was sitting in front of the TV yeah, Dad, they're just like us.
That's normal. Everybody, yeah.
Oh, good Lord. But yeah, to share that story of my problematic TV that we finally got rid of, I got a 19-inch TV for Christmas that year, and you couldn't tell me shit. I thought I had the 50-inch big screen in my room.
Hold on. How old were you?
16.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a TV, and I think the Christmas before that was when I got a VCR in my room.
Wow.
So I was just recording wrestling matches and music videos.
I find that shocking.
And the Game 6 of the 96 NBA Finals with the Spurs and the Bulls, I got that on VHS still.
Wow. You still have it?
In case I want to watch Sean Kemp dunk on somebody, it's there.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
All right, and then we get in a little bit more of a serious tone here. Rocking each other's pants to school wasn't easy. We kept it. Oh, excuse me. We survived winters, snotty nosed with no coats. We kept it real, but the older brothers still had jokes. Now, they rocked each other's pants to school. I was the youngest cousin of the group, so I would oftentimes, I wouldn't get the pants, but I would sure as hell get the Headbangers Ball style hand-me-down t-shirts.
Yes.
And at that age in particular, that's rough. When everybody's got the starter jackets. At the time, it was the And One t-shirts were real big. And, there I am with, swear to God, I had the Metallica Kill 'Em All t-shirt in, 95.
That is awesome, in my opinion, but I get what you're I see what you're saying.
The album came out in, 88.
I know, I would have wore that t-shirt.
Shirts.
But I get where you're coming from.
Shirts from out-of-district schools?
Wow, yeah.
Now, I lived in Jefferson County, Kentucky, and I had a shirt that, a football player's number on it, said North Bullitt High School. I was in 7th grade in Jefferson County.
Traitor.
Yeah. And as tough as that was, as my dog barks in the background here, as hard as that was back then, I couldn't imagine being a poor kid now. Because on top of the fashions, these kids are walking around now with iPads.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have phones. And if you don't even know where your meal's coming from, your parents sure as hell aren't worried about making sure you're, up on the newest iPad.
Yeah.
So, I could see now where the depression rate in the kids is growing and raising, and they're more anxious than they used to be. I mean, there's a lot more to keep up with now. You know how it is when you're 13. All that's the world to you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, looking back, we can see that it was bullshit, but they don't know that yet.
But at the time, it's all you know, so it seems like the end of the world, everything. So I didn't have to get the hand-me-down, so I was lucky. Just because I was the only girl. That was the only reason. That was the only reason. So
now, I was incredibly lucky that, I don't know why, but my parents, starting in 7th grade, made sure that I had good shoes.
Oh.
I don't know if it's because I was skinny and smart, so I was already kind of a target. They wanted one less thing on me,
Yes.
But, I can remember being in front of the class, and I just grabbed a shirt, didn't even realize what it was, and it was a band called Faster Pussycat.
Oh, my.
I had no idea. The back of it said, "Wake me when it's over."
Wow.
And I got called down to the damn office over that. I'm like, "Hey, man, I didn't know, all right? My cousins were fucking denim jacket wearing headbangers. They got tall, I didn't, so I'm wearing their shirts now. I'm sorry."
Yeah, this is just how it goes. Well, I think shoes, maybe, I don't know, for boys was a big thing. Like my younger brother, no matter what, always had Nikes, always. And it was like, I would rather have gotten 3 pairs of whatever and spent the same amount of money. But he was like, no, I want these Nikes no matter what. So it might have been more a boy thing. I don't know. Until I wanted my Doc Martens. That was about it. And my parents would not buy them. I had to get a job. They were like, we're not buying you $150 pair of boots. So I was like, okay, I'll get a job. So I did.
Rock on, man.
Yeah. I still have them. So.
All right, moving forward here we go. Sadly, Daddy left me at the age of 6. I didn't know nothing, but Mommy neatly packed his shit. Now, this is a big time issue. You already have the issues of the poverty and just trying to keep up. And then on top of that, it's a single parent home. And a single mother home at that. Now, I don't want to speak to the black community in any way. I'm a 36-year-old white as white can be, white. But, in a lot of the music of that era in particular, this was a picture that was painted quite a bit. And kind of detailing the struggles of single-parent homes. My friends who I keep up with in the group chat, I think one of them has, I don't want to name any names here because that's their stories to tell. I know one of them came from both parents in the home, but I think that the rest are all broken home type situations. And it is impactful. It's stressful on a child. Even if it's not the best situation, it's a change.
Yeah.
And not having both those parental role models, it's harder to get the balance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. She cried and Grandma held the family down. I guess Mommy wasn't strong enough. She just went down. Now here's a high spot. Check it. 15 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment. Holy shit.
Jeez.
15 people. And that happens when you can't afford to pay the bills. What do? You bring more people into the fold to make your part of it a little less. Hey, I can't afford $600 a month, but if I bring in, Joe and Billy, now I only have to pay $200.
Yeah.
It's sacrificing comfort just to be able to survive.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I picked this song is a lot of the demographic that we speak to hasn't necessarily had to see these struggles.
Yeah.
And I think that perspective I think this is an important story to tell. The other side, it's easy for us to say, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? But you have to understand, not everybody has the same resources.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the same 24 hours, but my money is different than your money. That is different from Steve Jobs' money or whoever else may be out there. I mean, could you imagine having 15 people in a full house, much less a 3-bedroom apartment?
No. No, I think when I was growing up, one time we had like 9 people in our house, and I was like, it felt like chaos to me. But I feel like I kind of grew up in that like loud and always people there, and that's not even close to 15, so I can't even imagine.
Yes. I grew up in such a loud environment. There
Me
were
too.
6 of us in this trailer, which was okay when I was 9. But as we got older, and I was 17 and my sisters were 15 and 13, those walls got a lot smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, I'm fortunate I have a big house with 4 people in it, and there's enough space to where you don't really have to hear anybody else if you don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like my daughter, sometimes when I take her to my mom's house, it's still loud like that all the time. Even though it's been 30 years, I don't understand why the volume never left. But there's times when she's like, all right, I've had enough. I have to get out of here for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my daughter's the same way 'cause she's an only child, so she doesn't know. Her cousins will come over for a couple hours. She's like, I'm going in my room. Like, I've had enough of this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So she has no idea because she's used to having a lot of freedom to just herself, and she doesn't like the noise at all. So.
All right, now we move on to roaches everywhere. Cousins and aunts was there. 4 in the bed, 2 at the foot, 2 at the head. I didn't like to sleep with John. He peed the bed. 15 people in this house, and this one little bastard can't stop pissing in the sheets. He's a little
poor kid.
He's a little boy from Home Alone. You cannot give him the Pepsi.
Poor kid. Yeah.
But part of that too, it's not really touched on in the song, but part of what we do here on Songs with Friends is we fill in backstory. That is something that you'll sometimes see in emotionally stunted or abused kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's an outlet that will sometimes wet the bed years after. It's what's considered acceptable. I'm not saying that's what's happening here with young John. Maybe he just really goes hard on the apple juice.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes poverty and abuse does go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't rule it out, especially with, 4, 2, and 2. That's 8 people, or excuse me, that's just 4 people in the bed. But, I hate to say it, but abuse does happen at the hands of, the same generation sometimes.
Yeah.
Older cousin, grabs little cousin in a wildly inappropriate way. I've worked in the system my entire adult life. I've seen it God knows how many times. It's terrible, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
7 o'clock, plucking roaches out the cereal box. Some shared the same spoon watching Saturday cartoons. We had roaches in that trailer up until it was a problem really right until we got out of it. Living in such close quarters, you could pay Orkin or whoever to come out and bomb, but what would happen is one home would bomb and they would migrate to the next, And when that home would bomb, because it's just 30 feet between trailers,
Yeah.
they would just migrate right back to you. It's a situation where unless everybody could afford to do it at once, you cannot get rid of them.
Yeah.
In an apartment complex, especially, forget it, man. It's over. Like you got to fumigate the whole building, shut it down for a day or two.
Yeah.
I can remember being. It's one of my earliest memories of life. I was maybe 4 at my aunt's house and ordered a pizza. Like my parents had scraped together the money for that pizza. They were so excited about it. Put it down for a minute, go to get plates, come back, open the box, and there's roaches just all over the pizza.
Oh.
And my mom just cried, and I'm a spoiled little shit, so I don't want to eat the pizza now.
You're 4, yeah.
I doubt I would eat roach on a pizza now, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, you being spoiled. Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I never had to experience this. I will admit this much. So I don't know. I do not know.
just imagine that heartbreak of you think
Yeah.
you're finally coming up on something good, and you can't even have a slice of pizza.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been times in my lazy peak where I've ordered pizza twice a week. It's something I take for granted now.
Yes, for sure.
All right, sugar water was our thing. Every meal was no frill, excuse me. I'm reading off Google and they don't always have it right. In this summer, free lunch held us down like steel. School lunch, free lunch in the summertime, that is a godsend.
Yeah.
I can remember walking down to the elementary school in the summertime, and there was a little 18-inch, they called it a pool, but it was just a hole with water in it. And yeah, after, say, 11:30, they bring out these little bag lunches with sandwiches and milks. And man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I thought that was the shit. I was looking back, clearly my mom just couldn't afford the lunch, so she would just take us there, let us get wet for a little bit, and we would eat and go home.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are programs that community relies on.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes funding will get cut. And I see now, I don't think this was a thing when I was a kid. Now they have this program where they'll put meals in the kids' backpacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll send them away to recess or a related arts class or whatever, and they'll come back and the food will be there in the bag so that they can have it over the weekend.
Yes.
That's a fantastic program.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, we have that here. Like Zoe's school, they straight give them free breakfast every day. It's
Nice.
just every kid. And all summer you can go get food. So lunches, I think it's based on income or whatever. But I mean, as far as breakfast and summer lunch, you could get that all the time.
That's awesome. It's because the kids didn't ask for this.
No.
They're just trying to make it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There was days I had to go to Tech's house with a note saying, "Gloria, can I borrow some food? I'm dead broke." So embarrassing. I couldn't stand to knock on their door. My friends might be laughing. I spent stamps in stores. Quick sidebar. We were on food stamps off and on, through my adolescent years. With the advent of the, they call it the U-Scan at Kroger, the self-scanner gimmick, where you take your groceries and scan them yourself and
Yeah.
pay the machine or whatever. Well, they were still using paper food stamps at the time. And I swear to God, this son of a bitch would kick up like 6 octaves if you try to pay with food stamps.
Oh.
If like, please pick your payment. Don't forget to take your food stamps to the cashier.
Oh my God. It probably just felt that way. Oh no.
I'm looking around like, man, ain't this some shit?
Oh, that's so sad.
I'm just trying to get a damn turkey sandwich and a Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine.
Well, now it's very I think they just have a card, it's just a card, so you
Yes.
don't have to fill the.
It's just like a debit card scenario now.
Yes, yes.
No,
I remember being little and seeing someone. I had no idea. We were by no means wealthy, but we were we had enough, I guess, or I didn't know. And I remember seeing a lady paying with those in the store one time, and I was like, "What's that?" I mean, I had no idea. My mom, had to explain it to me, and I was like, "Oh, I never." And I don't know if my parents were ever on them at one time. I guess I never asked them. I'm sure they were at some point, but.
And the embarrassment of just it's a matter of pride having to go knock on a friend's door, like I don't know where my food's coming from. Can I have some of yours?
Oh.
Thankfully as an adult I've never had to be there. I don't know how that went, my parents kept me that sheltered. If they had to
Yeah.
do that, I never knew about it. But it goes back to that sense of community. Now if I needed something from my neighbor, I wouldn't dare go over there just because I've never had the decency to say, "Hey, my name's Steve. How's it going? I just moved in."
5 years ago.
Right. Hey, you may have noticed my dog out there being a son of a bitch all day long. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Hey, by the way, I'm coming up short. Can I get $20 till Thursday?
Yeah. No.
But, it was a little easier when you did know everybody in your neighborhood. Now this next part. Mommy, where's the toilet paper? Use the newspaper. Shit.
That was like, when I read that, I almost wanted to cry, because I was like, toilet paper. We always had toilet paper. I just couldn't imagine not even having that. Like,
Yeah, these are things that most people will take for granted. That it struck such a chord with Ghostface that he wrote about it 25 years later.
oh yeah.
Not to mention just even the lack of comfort in that. I don't even like to hold a newspaper.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Look, Miss Rose gave us a couch. She's the neighbor. Now, this was one area where I was able to give back.
Yeah.
My last apartment, actually, there was a group of, judging from the amount of work shoes in the hallway, roughly 412 Latino fellas living in the apartment across the hall.
Oh, jeez.
So I knew I was about to get married. We had 2 couches. Me and my roommate did. I forget how we ended up with a second couch to begin with. But I just went and knocked on their doors. Nobody spoke a bit of English, or at least that's what they led me to believe. I don't know if they thought I was federales or what. But I pointed to, hey, it's yours. If you pick it up and drag it in there, you can have it. And, they understood that.
Yeah.
Hopped right up, barefoot, walked into my apartment, took the couch, thanked me, and we're on our way. Because I couldn't imagine, again, with that many people in one living space, I'm sure furnishings were slim.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I don't recommend accepting a couch or a bed from someone, just based on bed bugs.
Yeah.
You can't always see them, but they could be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's problematic. You got to be careful out there.
I did give away a couch or 2 in my day, but it was more, this is going to sound horrible, so I didn't have to get rid of it. Like, I just knocked on the door. Do you guys want this couch? So I don't have to take it and get rid. That sounds horrible, but that's probably more the reason. I was young and.
Now, Ghost kind of throws a swerve at us here too. So things were deep. My whole youth was sharper than cleats. 2 brothers with muscular dystrophy. On top of all this lack of resources, having to feed all these mouths, then you have 2 kids in the house who are disabled, and the rest of the family has to help them with the most basic of needs. And their health care obviously is more intensive than most people's. So how are you going to afford these doctor bills that are necessary to try to slow the progression of this disease?
Mm-hmm.
It's just another stressor in that house. But I remember this. Moms would lick her fingertips to wipe the cold out of my eye before school with her spit. Kelly, did your mom do this?
No.
She did not.
I don't remember that, honestly.
But
I see. I know. I'm sorry. My mom was not. I don't remember that. I read that and I thought, but I'm sure I took care of myself, I think, more so. I just did. I had all brothers, and I was more a caretaker from when I was born to help with them. You know what I mean? So I think my brothers would probably be like, yeah, she did that to me, but not me.
like the eye crust that you wake up with. Oh, man, my heart is aching for you right now, Kelly.
Why? No, because when I would wake up, I would get in the shower. I was a very routine child. So I would wake up and go to the shower, and you know what I mean? So I think that's normal. She was but I did not, I don't recall that. I hope I'm not lying, but I don't recall that memory. So.
All right. I'm going to put a poll up when the show drops.
There you go.
On the Twitter, at PTBN_songs. Place of Nation, let us know. Did your mom wipe the cold out your eye before school with her spit? I can't wait to see what kind of numbers this thing does.
I'm sure I'm going to be like the only one that didn't have that happen to them, I'm sure. But yes, put up the poll.
Oh, fantastic. See, this is why I like the show. We learn about each other. All right. A caseworker had her running back to face. I caught a case. How's try to throw us out of our place? All right. Essentially, for those of you who have a little bit of trouble keeping up with the slang, Ghostface did something. He didn't specify what as a youth, to where they would have been disqualified from the public housing they were living in. A caseworker, a social worker, oftentimes when you qualify for this assisted living type scenarios, they do assign someone to you to see if you are either trying to better yourself, if they consider your situation one that is short term, or to make sure the kids aren't being neglected. In this case, with having kids in the house with muscular dystrophy, I could very much see that being the case. But if you have a juvenile in that situation, you're struggling to keep it together as is, and then your kid lashes out and in doing so breaks a law, and it could just make it all unravel.
Yeah.
That's complex. And he kind of sums it up here on his part. He says, sometimes he looks up at the stars and analyzes the sky and asks himself, was I meant to be here? Why? So now he's a grown man. He's looking back, and he's kind of amazed at being able to come up from the dirt almost. And if you watch this video, it is, first off, hilarious. He's in the middle of the fucking neighborhood wearing a fur Kangol.
Yes.
And playing a piano.
Yes.
Because that's what Ghost does. I mean, it really is. Later on, he would have, Kelly, I shit you not, a championship belt and a bracelet that had a giant-ass eagle on it. Like a 12-inch across wingspan eagle on this bracelet.
Oh.
That is... it's one of those things, I kind of suffer from this too. If you come up with no money at all, once you get money, you start doing ridiculous shit with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm wearing Jordans right now as a 36-year-old man. I never had Jordans when I was a kid. So as soon as I could afford some, pow, I got some Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I work at a bank, so I see this all day. I'm very aware. It's like, yes, it happens. I'm a very thrifty person, so it's hard for me to do that, but I understand it.
But then the flip side of that is all these clips are interspersed as the lyrics are going on. I mean, the story is being told in the other clips that really drive the point home of what he went through growing up. Then we go to Mary's part. She's essentially singing as the mother, it looks like. All that I got is you, and I'm so thankful we made it through. When you're, have next to nothing and you're responsible for, up to a dozen other lives, it looks like in this song. Mm-hmm. If you can't have material possessions at all, that really is all that you have is each other coming up.
Yeah.
And she's looking back and kind of astounded that, they made it through in the end and that they're intact, and now the oldest son is in a position to provide for the rest of the family. And it's kind of a happy ending. But then she has her reflection here. I sit and think about all the times we did without. It is late. I always said I wouldn't cry when I saw tears in your eyes. I understand that Daddy's not here now. But some way or somehow, I will always be around. Now, the dad left when Ghost was 6. Now he's 26. And the dad just never looked back. Now, as a father, I could not imagine. If something happened today and my daughter was removed from me, I would be beating down every door I had to.
Yeah.
Until, literally and figuratively,
Mm-hmm.
I would very well get arrested on this hunt
Yeah.
to get my child back.
Yeah.
The flip side of that, I joke with her that she needs to be careful when she's out there because her daddy's not Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
And if she gets abducted, I mean, all Daddy can do is flame the shit out of their Twitter page.
My dad would do the Liam Neeson.
I will find them when they
You
will.
just step up.
I will find them when they will catch these jokes.
No, but I do think this is really horrible. I was at dinner tonight with some girlfriends and we were talking about there's this couple that we know of that they both kind of abandoned their kids and they're living with their grandmother. And we were talking about how we judge the woman a little bit harsher for that, which is really sad. But I think men not stepping up or not being around is a lot more. We're used to that. I know tons of people who grew up without a dad or their parents got divorced and the dad just gave up or whatever. So I always had both my parents, so I don't understand that. But I just think women, rarely do you see that. I know it happens, but it doesn't happen as often nearly. I mean, and it's just, I felt kind of bad sitting there thinking, I almost was thinking worse of her, but the guy's a piece of crap too, really.
Right.
But I really, as a mom, was like, I don't get that at all. As a woman, that was really mean of me, but I really was judging her harsher. But I think I'm just used to that for men. That's just, I don't know. Not to male bash. I'm not male bashing, but there are definitely a lot more single moms than single dads.
Men, send your hate mail to @KelGene17.
I'll take it. I don't care. It's a fact. There's got to be stats on this somewhere.
All right. All the things I did from this to them, from drugs to being there, being down and out, but I love you always. So we do get the reveal here that things are already hard, and on top of that, there's substance abuse issues in the home. I, to this day, have a lot, and I know it's silly, but I have issues with marijuana use for this reason. That was the one thing that I saw a lot in my home that was just out in the open. And I couldn't, in my young mind, comprehend. All right, we're having to be careful of how much cereal we eat.
Yes.
But you always have this shit.
Yep.
And that I have similar, distaste for cigarettes for that very reason. It just sounds.
They're expensive.
Yeah, it's a silly habit to begin with. Let me inhale smoke. Every hour on the hour. But then it costs so much.
Yes.
Like, especially if you're in an impoverished situation. I understand a lot of his learned behavior, but I just couldn't imagine.
I saw someone buy a pack of cigarettes in front of me the other day, and I mean, I don't know, but it was like $7 or something. And I was like, wow. And I know people that tell me they smoke a pack a day. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money.
Yeah, I see the cigarette prices for the cartons. Like, they're on sale for $62. Like, what the hell?
I'm not going to lie. I smoked in high school, and they were like $1.25 a pack. And I could take change and buy them, and very illegally. I don't think you could get away with that now, but it's crazy. And I'm with you on that. I mean, if you have money for drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, but your kids aren't having food, that's a matter of wrong priority for sure.
Kelly remembers when a dime bag cost a dime. This is good shit.
Probably that too. Yes.
All right, guys. I think we've pretty much gone as far as we can go here with the Ghostface Killah talk. So now let's get into our second song this week, the second single from Metallica's self-titled 1991 album, otherwise known as the Black Album. Kelly, why did you go with The Unforgiven?
Oh, I just love this song. I was thinking about this last night. Like, I grew up, I have all brothers, but my two older brothers were rocker. One was in a heavy metal band, and they listened to metal music all the time. So it was Metallica, Slayer, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, and they had these I always had posters in my room, but they had flags of these bands in their room. And so anyways, this song, I don't know what it is, just when it starts, it always, I don't know, it sounds odd because it's a very sad song, but it always kind of hit me in the heart when I'd hear it start. Whatever, the guitar in the beginning. And I love Metallica. I mean, how can you not? Well, I guess some people don't, but I don't understand those people. So anyways,
yeah,
just
go ahead.
No, you go.
This song and Nothing Else Matters, they're the two that I go back and forth with on that album as to which
Yes.
is my favorite, depending on my mood that day. Yeah, but this whole album kind of signified a bit of a change in Metallica's sound.
Mm-hmm.
Before they were very heavy metal,
Mm-hmm.
Headbangers Ball, 100 miles a minute. You know, for those of you who don't know a whole lot about the 80s version of Metallica, but you may know some songs, think about the last half of that song One.
Yes.
Darkness is all that I see. You know, all that
But
shit.
that's a song I almost picked, to be honest with you. That was between that, this, and the other one you said. So yeah.
Yeah, that was essentially their sound for a lot of the early stuff, and then they slowed it down a little bit, starting with the Black Album, and then it kind of went further and further down that path, and that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, let's get
There's
into
plenty
it.
of documentaries about that out there, I'm sure.
Oh, there is no shortage of Metallica documentaries. It's
Yes.
a little bit ridiculous, and I did not know the song had a video until you picked it, and I finally
Did you watch it?
I did watch it. I watched it at work. Don't tell my boss, kayfabe on that. But yeah, I watched it and it kind of blew my mind. I wasn't watching music videos back then as a precocious 9-year-old, but yeah, it was kind of a disturbing little weird video.
Yes. Yes.
The earliest video I recall was Inner Sandman. That was a fucking banger of a video. You couldn't get away from that back then.
No,
But,
no.
this was a little bit more obscure, but it was interesting. I like their interpretation of things.
Yes. Hmm.
All right, starting us off. New blood joins this earth, and quickly he's subdued. Through constant pain and disgrace, this young boy learns their rules. And Kelly, I do want to let you know too. Obviously, I tend to guide us through here, but especially when you pick the song, feel free to jump in at any point if there's a notation you want to make or a
Okay.
path you want to go down. But I'll go ahead and pass this off to you with what we've got so far.
Okay. All right. So no, just to me, I mean, it's when you're born. I mean, when you come into this world, you're going to be, I mean, to me, subdued. I mean, it's just life kind of beats you down or makes you conform, I think. And you learn to the rules of whatever. I mean, the house you grow up in or the people you're around or whatever. And maybe it's not really who you want to be, but to me, that's just what it is. I mean, you conform to what's around you most of the time, most people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I say that's fairly accurate. Uh, you start off, especially as very young. You don't really know right from wrong oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
So at the very least, whoever the adult is in your life guiding you will help you sometimes through pain and disgrace learn those rules.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When with time the child draws in, this whipping boy done wrong, deprived of all his thoughts, the young man struggles on, and on he's known. Kelly, go.
What do I think? What do I think? No, I just, this is kind of like, it's sad to me because I don't know. I was thinking when I was reading this, I was like, obviously, maybe this could even be about children that are abused. I wasn't raised in that. It's not something that I can relate in, but I just think, and I know I've said this on another show. I think I was very fortunate in my life with my parents, so I'm very lucky. But most people I know are taught to kind of think exactly the way their parents think, whether it's religion, political, whatever. And that's just, they become a carbon copy of what their parents are. And so I think that's kind of, when I hear that, like deprived of all your thoughts, I think it's horrible. I really try not to do that with my daughter, although I know some of the way that I am just rubs off on her. But I think it's important, to let your children still be who you are. And over here in where I live in the world in West Texas, there's a certain type of religious or political affiliation that it seems to be that's just what everybody thinks. Everybody else should be that way. And I think that's an unfortunate way to be. So.
Yeah, I had two theories almost jump out at me here. The first, like you said, was a possible situation in child abuse. Part of that is me, like I said earlier, having worked within the system for 18 years. With time, the child draws in this whipping boy done wrong, like a literal whipping boy. Whoever the adult is in his life is taking all the frustration out on this child. But then the other half of this, deprived of all his thoughts, the young man struggles on. Yeah, I'm not speculating on James Hetfield and the way he lives his life.
Yes, you are.
I don't know that dude. I don't know him. He looks very much like the Cowardly Lion. And that's the end of my opinions on James Hetfield.
Yeah.
But I could see this being taken as someone who's struggling with their sexuality.
Oh.
Maybe early on, realizing a little boy that maybe likes boys and is in a situation where he's being told that is wrong. You do not do that. This is the way you're going to be. And he struggles on and on trying to figure out his identity in this oppression.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a thought, that it doesn't necessarily go anywhere, but it's just something else I'm throwing out there.
No, you curveball me there. I could see that. I don't think this is weird to say, and it is odd to say in 2018, but I do think that there's a lot of still young men that wouldn't feel comfortable telling their dad they were gay and just would not live with, they would just not come out with it because of that. There's still a stigma with that. So I could see that.
All right, moving on. A vow unto his own, that never from this day his will they'll take away. This kind of too bled into my maybe there's homosexuality he's fighting. And the reason is, in the time between us picking this and us finally recording, we
like 6 years. No, I'm just kidding.
Roughly. We stumbled into Pride Month. And there was a post I saw on Twitter from a good friend of the show. I won't say his name because that's his story to tell. But he's openly gay, and he commented that as a very I don't want to say young child, going into adolescence, I would say he had gone a little longer between haircuts, and that his dad said something to the effect of, "When are you going to cut your hair? You're starting to look like a hard F word." And that he made up his mind right then that he was never going to tell his dad.
Oh.
And that his dad has since passed, and he's made peace with all that. But that reminded this lyric. I was listening to the song as I read that post, and maybe it's just subliminally intertwined in me now.
Yeah,
I made that connection. But what's your interpretation, having never heard the James Hetfield is gay theory before 3 minutes ago?
This is sort of like the Dido affair thing. You're just really just messing with me right now. So I don't even know what to say. No, I mean, to me, that was just, I think in life, it's easy to it's not easy, but people tend to take the easy way or go with what, I think it takes a lot to stand up and not conform or take the easy way in life. And, but I think most people just do what they think they're supposed to do or what their parents would want them to do. I mean, I have friends in their 30s that still make decisions based on what their parents would think. And that blows my mind, honestly. It shocks me, quite honestly, but I just think, and so that's how I kind of took that. Like, you're going to take the easy way, which is like, I'm just going to conform and not come out with my truth or whatever.
Yeah, when you picked this song, I found a blog post about, this is a heavily explored song, it turns out. But someone had speculated that James Hetfield grew up in an ultra-religious house. I don't know that to be true. Again, I never met Mr. Hetfield.
I read that too, though.
Yeah, and that he kind of lost his relationship with a god in the death of a family member. I believe it was his mother. Mm-hmm. And it was something, he was angry at a god, and that's something he struggled with. And that they felt like these lyrics were him working through that.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I feel like, I lost my mom like 6 years ago. And I think I don't know, I don't feel ashamed to say this, but when you go through something like that, watching someone you love so much die, and you could pray, do whatever you do, and the end still ends up bad, it can make you question a lot of things. So, I mean, that would make sense to me for sure. So.
All right. Oh, where are we here? I'm sorry, I'm on a site reading these lyrics that has all kinds of wacky pop-ups, so I'm just hoping we don't end up with an ad for T-Mobile or some bullshit in the middle of this. All right, the young man rumbles on and on. We're into the chorus now. Very good.
And the chorus,
all
yes.
right, thank you for help keeping me on track, Kelly. What I've felt, what I've known, never shine through what I've shown. Never be, never see. Won't see what might have been. Now, I had planned on throwing in that James Hetfield might like boys as a throwaway, but the more I'm getting into this, like, I'm kind of on board with this idea now. Allegedly, don't sue me, Metallica.
They do not allow stuff to go against, right? Didn't they do the pirated music
you
thing?
litigious bitches. Don't you dare sue me. I paid for my cassette of the Black Album.
Yes, they will find you.
So yeah, what's, taking my obvious bullshit out of it, what is your, where do you sit with this part?
Yeah, I mean, God, you're just throwing me with this gay thing. So now I feel like I'm just like, I mean, I would think of it more so like, I mean, when I was thinking about this, like my brothers, when we were growing up, they were like rockers, and they were high all the time, and they wore rock shirts and were in bands. And and my parents, I just think, allowed them to be that way. And I thought it was crazy. Like my parents would drag us to these like metal shows, like when I was young. Like I would go to bars and like, but I was like, also think like that was super badass, because my dad was not into that. I mean, it wasn't, and I think like my brother got his ear pierced, and it was like, oh, but he let it go. My one brother had hair down to the middle of his back, and they just kind of let him be, you know what I mean? And I just can't imagine living in an environment where they weren't able to maybe do those things, and how much they might have rebelled. You know what I mean? So I just think he's just feeling like he's never going to see maybe the true version of who he is or what he wanted. I don't know.
Thank you, Kelly, for getting us back on track.
No, but the gay thing, I'm sure we're not done with that, right?
No, I can't call it, because I didn't plan on taking it this far. All right, but it's a good point, though. Any type of overbearing personality situation, could lead to a stifling of another person's expression.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta water that flower and let it grow, man. You gotta let that child be whatever it is they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Guide them, help them make good choices, but at the end, you gotta let that bird go.
Yeah.
And this person is feeling like he cannot just fly at this point. So he's just kind of confining himself to the fact that he's never going to know the true self. And I think the video really does a good job expressing that.
Oh, my word, yeah.
It starts out as this literal child in a very small cell, almost, and just working away at this hole. And then they flash back, God knows how many years, probably 60, and this old man is still working away. And it comes back to my gay theory. He's trying to come out. My God.
Oh, my word. Yeah.
I'm going to email James Hetfield tonight.
We're having him on the next show.
We are. James Hetfield and the Shondells together at last. It's going to be a hoot.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. What I felt, what I've known, never shine through in what I've shown, never free, never me. So I dubbed the Unforgiven. I think this kind of goes into the similar themes that we've both touched on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he is not going to be accepted by his environment, whether he dresses differently, different sexuality, just maybe he grew up in a house of Republicans and he's a Democrat.
Let's hope.
Yeah. It really could be any of these things. That's what I like about music. It could be taken many different ways.
No, in the video, that's what I was thinking. Like, the older I get, the less I really give a shit what people think about me. And I think it's freeing, like, because if you're always worried what everybody thinks about you, it's stifling. It just kind of, it can make you feel, I don't know, just like I live in like an area that I don't feel like I'm like most of the people here, but I have tons of friends here and good people, but I don't have the same views as them. But I don't want to look back and be like, well, everybody else was that way, so I just did it, did the same or whatever. But that video, I was thinking not about the gay thing, just anybody. You get to be 80 and you look back and you're like, I didn't even do what I wanted. I didn't live the way that I wanted to live. And that has to feel horrible.
Yeah, if you have a dream and you have the means, pursue it.
Yeah.
What if is the worst thing?
Yes.
All right, moving
We
on.
can do a song about that for sure. That'll be to come.
Okay, rock on. All right, they dedicate their lives to running all of his. He tries to please them all. This bitter man he is. So we're not dealing with a child anymore, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like this is in fact the same person, moving forward in their life. So yeah, he's maybe not necessarily parents, but definitely somebody around him. He still feels the need to please people around him, to still stifle whatever personality trait he has that he is unable to express.
Yeah.
And if you're living your life completely for someone else, you're not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a bitterness growing within you.
For sure.
Throughout his life, the same. He's battled constantly. This fight he cannot win. A tired man they see no longer cares.
That's horrible.
Yeah, like this is someone who's given up.
Yeah.
And that is just, I couldn't imagine.
No.
You see a lot of that with, obviously, people with depression. We could be nearing, and actually as I read further a little bit, it looks like we're nearing what could be interpreted as a suicide portion of the song. One way or another, he's coming to the end of his fight.
Yeah.
What, do you want to expound on that and kind of give your thoughts on where we're at in the song?
Yeah, well, now you said the depression thing. I'm like, oh, that's true. I can see that, a lot of it. And I just think that people do get that way in life where they don't care anymore. I'm ready to go. My time here's done. And I just feel like it's very sad, because you can always find a reason to be happy or, reinvent yourself, whatever. And I just think that we get scared, and it's scary to do those things. And so I just think I never want to live to be that bitter old woman. That just makes me really sad. I don't really know what else to say about that. Terrible.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah.
A tired man they see no longer cares. The old man then prepares to die regretfully. So he just put his nuts on the table there, man.
Yeah.
That old man here is me. So there's somebody who's been struggling with something his entire life. Again, not saying he's gay.
Allegedly.
But imagine, even if Hadfield is writing this from the perspective of someone in 1991. 1991 is where Freddie Mercury died.
Yes.
1991, this hard rocking, Magic Johnson had just come out as having HIV.
Oh, yeah.
And before that, it has really been pretty much considered a gay person's disease.
Yes.
When that kid, Ryan White, got HIV from a blood transfusion, right away, other kids turned on him, calling him hard F word, and just making his life miserable.
Yeah.
And our adults were doing this too, saying, "Get that F out of our school." What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different climate back then.
Yeah.
So I could see an old person in 1991 who struggled with this emotion their entire life. You're going to lose that fight eventually. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on here, we've pretty much go through the whole chorus again, but then near the end, he chimes in as he's kind of winding down. You labeled me, I'll label you. So I dubbed thee Unforgiven. So at this point, he's lashing it back out.
Yeah.
Fine. If you don't forgive me, then fuck you. I don't forgive you either.
Yeah. Yeah.
All this labeling. And it's easy to do, especially in today's climate where we're almost pitted against each other on a daily basis through media or social media or just being surrounded by assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy. Labels are tough to overcome.
Yeah, for sure.
So wrapping up Unforgiven, Kelly, final thoughts on this song?
Oh, actually, I have to say, this is kind of sad to say, but I never thought this song was as sad until I started going through it. But I mean, for me, it just reaffirms, like anyone that I love and care about, I'm always just like telling them, be happy. Try to, if you don't like something about your life, change it. And I don't know, as a parent, it made me think, like, I don't ever want my daughter to feel this way. I want her to feel like I don't care what she does as long as she's like a good person and she's, right. You know what I mean? I don't care, gay, straight, whatever it is. Like, I just want her to be happy. And so it made me kind of think about my relationship as a mom with her and what I can be better about so that she knows no matter what, this is a safe place and that whatever she wants to be is fine. So just made me think about those kind of things.
That's a good point. As a parent, those of you who have kids in our Place to Be Nation, I know there's a lot of you that do. Shout out to the Dad Cast. Hope JT brings that back at some point. But foster the personality in your kids. Guide them. Think about the worst possible scenarios for a child and do the complete opposite. That was my approach to growing up. I grew up with parents that weren't great, so whenever they zigged, I would zag.
Yeah.
And, but you want to be the good example. Lead by example. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a little heavier than last week's when I speculated on the statutory status of one Tiffany.
Yes.
So, Kelly, next week, or next time we get together, your song is going first. And what song will that be?
I am going to do Because of You by Kelly Clarkson.
By God, that is going to be a fantastic discussion.
I will say, my friend Nikki, this is for her. She will not shut up about me doing one of her songs, but also it's a great song and I think it's awesome. So I'm excited. This is for her.
Nikki, Because of You will never stray too far from the sidewalk.
Yes.
All right, and because we both went so heavy this week, I went as far left as I could with Lionel Richie's Hello.
Oh, yay.
A bit of a low-key stalker anthem, so I'm looking forward to that. All right.
That is awesome. I can't wait.
Kelly, anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, I guess you can just still follow me on Twitter, KelJean17.
All right, you can follow me at Not Dr. Death, NOTDRDEATH. Follow the shows proper at PTBN_songs. And if you don't have Twitter, I know our Facebook chat is pretty active, the PTBN live chats. We do have an email address that I'll probably get around to checking once a week or so. That's PTBNsongswithfriends@gmail.com. Somebody else got a hold of songswithfriends@gmail.com, and if you're out there, I will fight you for the rights to that email. But for now, we're ptbnsongswithfriends@gmail.com. Any feedback, good or bad, song request, we're open to it. The Twitter feed's been getting a bit more activity lately. I'm happy to see that. And yeah, we got some good things going on here at Songs with Friends that I'm looking forward to. Again, I apologize for the delay. Real life's kind of been kicking our asses lately, but we're hope to get back to the bi-weekly schedule. So for Kelly, I'm Steve. We'll talk to you next time.